I'm staring at my bank statement when my mother calls to tell me they've given away my inheritance. Not lost it, not invested it poorly. Given it away to my 32-year-old brother who still lives in their basement. Cassandra, honey, you have to understand. Mom's voice crackles through my phone as I sit in my cramped studio apartment, surrounded by financial reports I've been analyzing since 6 a.m. Trevor needed the money for his music career. This could be his big break. His big break. The same words she's used for the last 10 years while I've been working 70-hour weeks, building my career from nothing, living on ramen noodles and determination. The same words that convinced them to co-sign his student loans, buy him equipment, pay for his failed ventures. Now they've liquidated the modest inheritance my grandmother left for both of us, money that was supposed to help us both get started in life. What about my half, Mom? My voice is steady, but my hands are shaking as I flip through my own bank statements. Every dollar accounted for, every expense justified, every investment carefully researched. Well, sweetheart, you're doing so well on your own. You don't need it like Trevor does. I don't need it, because I worked for everything I have, because I never asked for help, because I figured out how to survive without depending on them. I don't deserve what was rightfully mine. I hang up the phone and sit in the silence of my apartment, looking around at the life I've built through pure stubborn determination. The second-hand furniture I refinished myself. The business books I bought used and highlighted until the pages fell out. The laptop that's held together with tape but contains every financial model, every investment strategy, every carefully calculated step that's brought me this far. They think I don't need help because I never asked for it. They're about to learn exactly what I'm capable of when I stop asking for anything at all. My name is Cassandra Mitchell, and I've been the responsible one since I was 12 years old. Not by choice, by necessity. While other kids were at sleepovers, I was creating budget spreadsheets for our family because Mom couldn't figure out why we were always broke. While other teenagers were at parties, I was working at the local accounting firm, filing documents and learning that numbers don't lie, even when people do. I discovered I had a gift for seeing patterns others missed. In high school, I helped my economics teacher identify a discrepancy in the school's fundraising accounts that saved them from a potential audit nightmare. In college, working part-time at a small investment firm, I noticed trends that the senior analysts had overlooked. My boss, Patricia Chen, became my first real mentor. You see the forest and the trees, Cassandra, Patricia told me during my junior year. Most people can do one or the other. That's going to serve you well. After graduating with a degree in finance and a minor in data analytics, I landed a position at Meridian Financial Services, a mid-sized firm specializing in wealth management for small businesses and high-net-worth individuals. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real. I started as a junior analyst, making $42,000 a year, which felt like a fortune compared to my college jobs. My apartment is a 450-square-foot studio in a converted warehouse building. It's not much, but it's mine. The walls are covered with charts I've printed, market trends, real estate data, industry reports. My neighbors probably think I'm either a day trader or completely obsessed with numbers. They're not wrong about the second part. I have exactly 3 close friends. Rebecca from college works in marketing and thinks my spreadsheet obsession is adorable but concerning. James from my gym is a teacher who understands the value of hard work and delayed gratification. And there's Dr. Sarah Kim, my therapist, who I started seeing 2 years ago when I realized that growing up as the family financial planner might have left me with some issues around control and self-worth. You've been taking care of everyone else since you were a child, Dr. Kim observed during one of our early sessions. When did you decide you weren't worth taking care of? I couldn't answer that question then. I'm starting to understand it now. My work at Meridian involves analyzing investment portfolios, identifying underperforming assets, and developing strategies to optimize returns. I've been particularly successful with real estate investment trusts and small-cap value stocks. My clients trust me because I do my homework. I don't make promises I can't keep, and I don't recommend investments I wouldn't make myself. Which is why I have $67,000 in savings at age 29. Every dollar deliberately saved, every investment carefully researched. I drive a 2018 Honda Civic that I bought used but reliable. I shop at outlet stores and buy generic groceries. I haven't taken a vacation in 3 years. Not because I'm miserable, but because I have goals that matter more than temporary pleasures. My family doesn't understand this. To them, my frugality looks like deprivation. They see my careful spending and think I'm being stingy with myself. What they don't see is the spreadsheet on my laptop that tracks every dollar towards specific objectives: emergency fund, retirement contributions, investment portfolio, and yes, eventually, real estate. Why don't you buy yourself something nice for once? Mom always says when she visits my apartment. She'll look around at my functional but modest furnishings with something that might be pity. You work so hard. She means well, but she fundamentally doesn't understand that every choice I make is intentional. The money I don't spend on restaurants is money that goes into index funds. The vacation I don't take is a down payment I'm building. The expensive clothes I don't buy are investments in my future independence. Trevor, meanwhile, lives in a fully furnished basement suite at my parents' house. He pays no rent, no utilities, no groceries. He's been working on his music since he graduated from college 10 years ago with a degree in communications that my parents paid for. He's had various part-time jobs: barista, retail associate, dog walker, but nothing that's ever lasted more than 6 months. Trevor's an artist, Mom always explains when I ask about his employment situation. He needs the freedom to pursue his creativity. I've heard his music, it's not good. More importantly, he's never treated it like a business. No marketing plan, no financial projections, no understanding of the industry he claims to want to join. When I tried to help him create a budget and business plan 2 years ago, he accused me of trying to kill his dreams with spreadsheets. The differential treatment has been consistent my entire life, but it's become more pronounced as we've gotten older. When Trevor needed a car, my parents co-signed a loan for a brand new Toyota Camry. When I needed a car, they gave me information about used car lots and wished me luck. When Trevor wanted to attend a music festival in Austin, they paid for his ticket and travel expenses. When I wanted to attend a professional development conference in Chicago, they told me it sounded like a good investment in my future, and that they were proud of my initiative. I learned early that praise was the consolation prize for not getting actual support. But I also learned something else. I could rely on myself in ways I couldn't rely on anyone else. Every challenge I faced alone made me stronger, more resourceful, more determined. I developed a kind of fierce self-reliance that served me well in my career and personal life. My colleagues respect me because I do exceptional work. My clients trust me because I never overpromise and always deliver results. My credit score is 847. I've never missed a payment on anything, never carried credit card debt, never made a financial decision based on emotion rather than data. This is why, when Mom calls to tell me about my inheritance, I don't scream or cry or beg. I thank her for letting me know, tell her I hope Trevor's music works out, and hang up the phone. Then I open my laptop and start researching real estate prices in their neighborhood. The call comes on a Tuesday morning while I'm reviewing quarterly reports for the Henderson portfolio. Mom's timing is perfect. As always, just disruptive enough to completely derail my concentration, but not quite late enough for me to ignore it. Cassandra, honey, I hope you're sitting down. I'm not sitting down. I'm standing at my kitchen counter, coffee in one hand, stylus in the other, making notes on a tablet displaying charts that would make most people's eyes glaze over. But something in her voice makes me set everything down. What's wrong, Mom? Is everyone okay? Oh, everyone's fine, sweetheart. Actually, we have wonderful news. Trevor got accepted to that music production program in Nashville, the one he's been dreaming about. I wait for the other shoe to drop. There's always another shoe. The thing is, the program costs $35,000 and it starts in 6 weeks. We've been trying to figure out how to make it work, and then we remembered Grandma Ruth's money. Grandma Ruth died 18 months ago. She left $50,000 to be split between Trevor and me, $25,000 each. It's been sitting in an estate account, earning minimal interest while the lawyers sorted out some minor complications with her will. I've been planning to use my portion as a down payment on a small condo. We talked to the estate lawyer, and we can access the funds early if we have a good reason. Education definitely qualifies, so we went ahead and had them release Trevor's portion and we're using your portion to cover the rest of the program cost. I'm very still, the kind of still that happens right before an earthquake, when animals go quiet and birds stop singing. You used my portion for Trevor's program. Well, yes, but Cassandra, think about it logically. You're doing so well financially. You have your job, your savings, your apartment. Trevor needs this opportunity to finally get his career off the ground. This could change his whole life. Logically, she wants me to think about it logically. Mom, that was my inheritance from Grandma Ruth. It was specifically left to both of us. And we're using it for both of you? Trevor gets his education, and you get the satisfaction of knowing you helped your brother achieve his dreams. Besides, you can always save up for whatever you were planning to buy. You're so good with money. The satisfaction of knowing I helped my brother, with my own inheritance, that I didn't agree to give him. Did you ask me before you did this? Well, we knew you'd want to help Trevor. You always do the right thing. There it is, the assumption that's governed my entire relationship with my family. Cassandra will understand. Cassandra will be reasonable. Cassandra will sacrifice for everyone else because that's what good daughters do. Mom, I need you to listen to me very carefully. I did not agree to this. You took my money without my permission and gave it to Trevor. Honey, don't be dramatic. It's not like we stole it. We're family. Family helps each other. When has Trevor ever helped me? The silence stretches long enough that I can hear her breathing change. I've never asked that question before. That's not fair, Cassandra. Trevor's still finding his way. You've always been so independent, so capable. You don't need help the way he does. I don't need help because I've never been offered any. There's a difference. Look, I called to share good news about your brother's opportunity, not to fight about money. I thought you'd be happy for him. I would be happy for him if he was paying for his opportunity with his own money, or even with his half of the inheritance. But you gave him both halves, and you didn't ask me first. Cassandra Mitchell, I am your mother, and I will not be spoken to this way. We made the best decision for this family. You made the best decision for Trevor. You made it with my money, and you didn't include me in the choice. I can hear her talking to someone in the background, probably Dad, probably Trevor. There's a muffled conversation, and then she's back. Your father wants to talk to you. Cassie, Dad's voice is gentler, but I can hear the strain. Your mom told me you're upset about the inheritance situation. I'm upset that you spent my inheritance without asking me, Dad. Look, I understand you're disappointed, but Trevor needs this chance. He's been struggling for so long, and this program could really turn things around for him. You're already successful. You don't need the money the way he does. The way he does, as if need is determined by incompetence, as if struggling for 10 years with no results somehow creates a greater claim to resources than working hard and managing money responsibly. Dad, I've been saving for years to buy a place. That inheritance was going to be my down payment. You can save up for a down payment. You're good at saving money, but Trevor can't save up for an opportunity like this. These programs don't come around often. I'm quiet for a long time, looking around my studio apartment. Looking at the spreadsheets on my wall, the carefully planned budget that accounts for every dollar, the modest life I've built through discipline and patience and delayed gratification. You're right, Dad. I am good at saving money. I'm good at a lot of things. See, I knew you'd understand. You always do. I understand perfectly. Don't worry about me at all. After I hang up, I sit in my apartment for exactly 10 minutes, letting the full weight of what just happened settle over me. Then I open my laptop and pull up the real estate listings for their neighborhood. The house they live in, the house I grew up in, is a 1,800 square foot colonial on Maple Street. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, decent-sized yard, built in 1987. They bought it for $180,000 in 2001. According to the property records I can access through my work, it's currently valued at approximately $340,000. They've refinanced it twice. Once in 2008 to pay for Trevor's college, and once in 2019 to pay for what Mom described as necessary renovations, but which seemed to mostly involve turning the basement into Trevor's music studio. Their current mortgage balance is $127,000. Their monthly payment is $1,847, including taxes and insurance. I know this because I helped them refinance in 2019. They needed someone to review the loan documents and explain the terms, someone who understood financial paperwork and could spot unfavorable clauses, someone who could make sure they weren't being taken advantage of. Someone like me. I start making phone calls. The first call I make is to Rebecca. They did what? Her voice goes up about 3 octaves. Cassie, please tell me you're joking. I wish I were. I'm at my kitchen table, laptop open, surrounded by papers. It's Wednesday evening, and I've spent the last 24 hours doing research. They liquidated both portions of the inheritance without asking me and used my half to fund Trevor's music program. That's theft, like literally theft. Technically, it's not. The estate lawyer released the funds to my parents as co-executors. They had legal authority to access the money for educational purposes. Trevor's program qualifies. But they didn't have your permission. No, but the inheritance was set up to go through them first, with the intention that they'd distribute it to us. Grandma Ruth trusted them to do the right thing. And they didn't. No, they didn't. Rebecca is quiet for a moment. She's been my friend since our sophomore year in college, when we were randomly assigned as roommates. She's witnessed my family dynamics for over a decade. What are you going to do? I'm going to make sure this never happens again. Meaning? I look at the real estate listings spread across my table, meaning I'm going to take care of myself, since apparently no one else will. The second call I make is to Patricia Chen, my former mentor. She left Meridian 2 years ago to start her own wealth management firm, and we've kept in touch. Cassandra, I was just thinking about you. How's everything at Meridian? Actually, Patricia, I'm calling because I need some advice. Hypothetically speaking, if someone wanted to purchase real estate as an investment property, what would be the most efficient way to structure that purchase? Patricia is quiet for a moment. She knows me well enough to understand that I don't ask hypothetical questions. Well, that would depend on several factors: the buyer's financial position, the property value, the intended use of the property. Are we talking about rental income, long-term appreciation, or something else? Long-term strategic investment. The buyer has substantial savings, excellent credit, stable income. The property is a single-family home, currently owner-occupied, in a good neighborhood with strong appreciation potential. Owner-occupied properties can be tricky if you're looking to purchase them. The current owners would need to be willing to sell. What if the current owners were facing financial pressure? What if they needed to sell? There's a longer pause. Patricia is very smart, and she's starting to understand the direction of this conversation. Cassandra, are you planning to buy your parents' house? I'm exploring options. That's a significant decision. Have you thought through all the implications? I've thought through the implications of having my inheritance stolen to fund my brother's music career. I've thought through the implications of being treated like my financial security doesn't matter. I've thought through the implications of watching my family reward irresponsibility while taking my contributions for granted. Okay, I hear you, but this is your family we're talking about, even if you're angry. Patricia, I'm not angry, I'm done, there's a difference. She's quiet for a long time. Finally, if you're serious about this, you want to structure it through an LLC, provide some legal protection and tax advantages. You'd also want to make sure you're making the purchase for sound financial reasons, not just emotional ones. It's a good house in a good neighborhood. The current owners have refinanced twice and probably don't have much equity. If they continue their current spending patterns, they'll likely face financial difficulties within the next few years. The property itself is a solid investment. You've done your homework. I always do my homework. After we hang up, I spend the rest of the evening researching LLC formation in my state. By Thursday morning, I've filed the paperwork for Mitchell Property Investments, LLC. By Friday afternoon, I have a business bank account and a preliminary meeting scheduled with a mortgage broker. The third call I make is to James. So let me make sure I understand this, he says. We're at the gym, and he's spotting me while I bench press. Your parents took your inheritance money and gave it to your brother without asking you. Incorrect. And now you're planning to buy their house out from under them. I'm planning to make a legitimate investment in real estate. If they choose to sell their house, that's their decision. James shakes his head. Cassie, I love you, but this sounds like you're planning some kind of elaborate revenge scheme. I finish my set and sit up. James, let me ask you something. If someone stole $25,000 from you, what would you do? I'd call the police. What if the person who stole it was your family, and what they did was technically legal? He considers this. I'd probably never trust them again. Exactly. I'm not planning revenge. I'm planning to protect myself. They've shown me that they'll take my money without asking and give it to my brother because they think I don't deserve it as much as he does. So I'm going to make sure they can never do that again. By buying their house. By building financial security that they can't touch. James is quiet while I move to the next exercise. Finally, he says, You know what? You're right. They screwed you over. If you can afford to buy their house as an investment, go for it. You think I'm doing the right thing. I think you're doing what you need to do. There's a difference, but sometimes that's the same thing. The fourth call I make is to Dr. Kim. I'm hearing a lot of anger in your voice, Cassandra. I'm not angry, I'm clear. Those aren't mutually exclusive states. We're in her office, which is decorated in calming earth tones that usually help me relax. Today, nothing is helping me relax. They stole from me, Dr. Kim. They took money that was specifically left to me by my grandmother and gave it to my brother without my consent. How am I supposed to respond to that? How do you want to respond? I want to make sure it never happens again. I want to make sure that my financial security is completely under my control. And buying their house accomplishes that how? I pause. This is the question I've been avoiding, even in my own mind. Because if I own their house, they can't use me anymore. They can't take my resources for granted. They'll have to acknowledge that I have power in this relationship. So this is about power. This is about respect. Are you sure those are different things? I don't answer that question during our session. I'm still thinking about it 3 days later. The fifth conversation I have is with myself, late at night, staring at the ceiling of my studio apartment. Here's what I know. I have $67,000 in savings. With a 20% down payment, I can afford a house worth up to $335,000. Their house is worth approximately $340,000, but if they're facing financial pressure, they might be willing to negotiate. Here's what I also know. They owe $127,000 on their current mortgage. If they sold the house for $320,000, they'd walk away with about $180,000 after paying off the loan and covering closing costs. That's enough for them to buy a smaller place outright or put a substantial down payment on something more affordable. Here's what I'm trying not to think about. Trevor would have to find somewhere else to live. Here's what I keep coming back to. They made this choice when they decided my money was available for Trevor's dreams, but their house wasn't available for my security. I spend the weekend creating a comprehensive financial model. Purchase price scenarios, mortgage calculations, rental income projections, long-term appreciation estimates. By Sunday evening, I have a 15-page analysis that demonstrates exactly why purchasing 847 Maple Street would be an excellent investment for Mitchell Property Investments, LLC. Monday morning, I call a realtor. I'm interested in making an offer on a property, I tell Linda Morrison, who specializes in my parents' neighborhood. But the house isn't officially on the market yet. That happens sometimes. Do you know if the owners are interested in selling? I think they might be, under the right circumstances. What kind of circumstances? The kind where they receive a fair offer that solves some financial problems they may not even realize they have yet. Linda is quiet for a moment. Ms. Mitchell, I have to ask, is this a situation where you have some kind of inside information about the owner's financial status? I have information about their spending patterns and debt obligations that suggests they might be open to a cash-heavy offer with a quick close. And you're comfortable with the ethical implications of that. I think about Trevor in Nashville, spending my inheritance money on his music program. I think about my parents assuming I'd be happy to sacrifice my future for his opportunity. I'm comfortable with making a legitimate offer on a property I can afford to purchase. What the owners do with that offer is entirely up to them. Fair enough, what's the address? I give her the address, she's quiet for a long time. Ms. Mitchell, this is 847 Maple Street. That's correct. The owners are John and Marie Mitchell. That's correct. Another long pause. Are you related to the current owners? Yes, they're my parents. Linda Morrison meets me at a coffee shop on Tuesday morning. She's a woman in her 50s with short gray hair and a no-nonsense demeanor that I appreciate. She's also clearly uncomfortable with the situation. Cassandra, I have to be honest with you. In 30 years of real estate, I've never had someone ask me to help them buy their parents' house without the parents knowing about it. I'm not asking you to do anything unethical. I want to make a legitimate offer through proper channels. If my parents aren't interested in selling, they'll decline the offer. If they are interested, we'll proceed with a normal transaction. But they don't know you're the buyer. They'll know when we make the offer. I'm not trying to hide my identity. Linda stirs her coffee slowly. Can I ask why you want to buy their house? I give her the abbreviated version: family financial dynamics, inheritance situation, desire for investment property. She listens without interrupting. So this is partially about creating distance in your relationship with your family. This is about creating appropriate boundaries and protecting my financial interests. Cassandra, I'm going to give you some unsolicited advice. Family and real estate make a volatile combination. Even when everyone has the best intentions, these transactions can destroy relationships. My relationship with my family was damaged when they decided to steal my inheritance. I'm not trying to repair that relationship. I'm trying to protect myself from further exploitation. She nods slowly. Okay, if you're determined to do this, let's talk about how to do it right. We spend the next hour discussing strategy. Linda explains the local market, recent comparable sales, and realistic price points. She also walks me through the timeline and process. If we're going to do this, we need to be prepared for them to have questions. They're going to want to know why you want their house, whether you're planning to live in it, what you intend to do with it long term. I'll be honest with them. It's an investment property. I'll probably rent it out initially, with the possibility of living in it myself eventually. And if they ask whether you're doing this because of the inheritance situation, I'll tell them that recent events have made me realize I need to take full control of my financial security. Linda grimaces. That's not going to go over well. Probably not, but it's the truth. We agree on an initial approach. Linda will contact my parents to let them know she has a client interested in purchasing their property and ask if they'd be open to hearing an offer. If they express any interest, she'll schedule a meeting to present the offer formally. One more thing, Cassandra. What's your backup plan if this doesn't work? If they refuse to sell, or if the purchase somehow falls through? I've been thinking about this question for days. If they won't sell, I'll use my savings to buy something else. A smaller condo, maybe. The point isn't specifically to own their house. The point is to own property that gives me security they can't touch. And if they do sell, but the family fallout is worse than you expected, then I'll deal with the consequences, but at least I'll deal with them from a position of financial strength. Linda makes the call that afternoon. I'm at work, trying to concentrate on a portfolio analysis, when my phone buzzes with a text. They're interested. Want to meet Thursday evening to discuss details. I stare at the message for a long time. Part of me is surprised they said yes. Part of me isn't surprised at all. That evening, I call Rebecca. They said yes already. Linda says they seemed very interested in hearing the offer, which tells me their financial situation might be worse than I thought. Or maybe they're just curious about who wants to buy their house. Maybe, but if their finances were solid, they'd probably have asked more questions before agreeing to meet. Rebecca is quiet. Cassie, are you sure you want to do this? Once you make the offer, there's no taking it back. Even if they say no, your parents are going to know you tried to buy their house. As I know. And they're going to have opinions about that. I'm sure they will. Are you prepared for those opinions to be really, really negative? I think about this. Rebecca, they took $25,000 that belonged to me and gave it to my brother without asking. They justified it by saying I don't need financial help because I'm responsible with money. So I'm being responsible with money by making a smart real estate investment. If they have a problem with that, they can discuss it with Trevor while he's spending my inheritance in Nashville. Okay, but promise me you'll think through what you're going to say when they ask why you want their house. I've been thinking about it for weeks. Thursday evening, I meet Linda at her office to review the offer documents. We've structured it as a cash-heavy purchase, $320,000, with $100,000 down and owner financing for the remaining $220,000 at 4.5% interest over 15 years. This gives my parents a substantial lump sum up front, plus steady monthly income of approximately $1,700 for the next 15 years. This is actually a pretty generous offer, Linda observes as we review the paperwork. They'll get more money up front than they would with a traditional mortgage buyer, and the monthly payments from the owner financing will give them ongoing income. I want the offer to be attractive enough that they seriously consider it. Oh, they'll seriously consider it. The question is whether they'll seriously consider the source. We drive to their house together. It feels strange, pulling into the driveway where I learned to ride a bike, approaching the front door where I used to sit reading financial magazines while other kids played video games. Mom answers the door. She looks surprised to see me with Linda. Cassandra, what are you doing here? Linda, I thought you were coming alone to discuss the offer. Linda glances at me. Mrs. Mitchell, my client is here to present the offer personally. It takes Mom a moment to connect the dots. When she does, her face goes through several distinct expressions: confusion, realization, and something that might be hurt. You want to buy our house. I want to make you an offer on your house. Whether you accept it is entirely up to you. Dad appears in the doorway behind Mom. Trevor is there too, which I wasn't expecting. He's holding a beer and wearing a t-shirt that says Nashville or bust. What's going on? Dad asks. Cassandra wants to buy our house, Mom says, her voice flat. The silence stretches long enough to become uncomfortable. Finally, Dad steps aside. I think we better sit down and talk about this. We settle in the living room, the same living room where I used to do homework at the coffee table, where we had family meetings about budgets and expenses, where I explained the terms of their refinancing documents 2 years ago. Linda takes the lead, presenting the offer professionally and thoroughly. She explains the structure, the timeline, the benefits of owner financing. My parents listen without interrupting, but I can see them exchanging glances. When Linda finishes, Dad clears his throat. This is a generous offer, he says carefully, but I have to ask Cassie, why do you want our house? It's a good investment. The neighborhood has strong appreciation potential, and the property is well maintained. But it's our house, the house you grew up in. Which is why I know it's a good property. Mom leans forward. Cassandra, is this about the inheritance money? I've been preparing for this question for days, but it's still difficult to answer calmly. This is about me making smart financial decisions to secure my future. But the timing. The timing is based on my financial readiness to make this kind of investment and the market conditions that make it attractive. Trevor speaks for the first time. This is messed up, Cassie. You're trying to buy the house out from under us because you're mad about the inheritance. I look at him directly. Trevor, you're 32 years old and you live in our parents' basement. I'm 29 and I have enough money to buy their house. Do you really want to have a conversation about who's making better financial decisions? I'm pursuing my dreams. With my money. The room goes quiet again. Mom looks like she might cry. Cassandra, we're a family. Family members help each other. We didn't think you'd be this upset about the inheritance. You didn't think about me at all. You saw an opportunity for Trevor and figured I'd understand because I always understand. Because I'm the responsible one who doesn't need help. You don't need help, Dad says. Look at you. You have a good job, savings, you're able to make an offer on a house. I have those things because I worked for them. Because I saved every dollar and made smart choices and didn't depend on anyone else. And the one time I was supposed to receive something I didn't have to earn, Grandma Ruth's inheritance, you gave it away to someone who hasn't earned anything. Linda clears her throat gently. Perhaps we should focus on the property offer itself. You don't have to make a decision tonight. Take some time to review the terms and discuss it as a family. Mom wipes her eyes. How can we discuss it as a family when our daughter is trying to buy our house as punishment? I'm not trying to punish you. I'm trying to protect myself. If you don't want to sell, you can decline the offer. If you do want to sell, this is a fair price with favorable terms. Dad runs his hands through his hair. Cassie, what would you do with the house if we sold it to you? Initially, I'd probably rent it out. Eventually, I might live in it myself. So you'd be our landlord. If you chose to rent it back from me, yes. The look on his face tells me this possibility hadn't occurred to him. We'd have to move, Mom says quietly. With $100,000 up front, plus no mortgage payments, you'd have plenty of options. You could buy a smaller place outright, or put a large down payment on something more manageable. Trevor slams his beer down on the coffee table. This is insane. You're talking about kicking us out of our house because you're mad about money. I'm talking about making you an offer on property you own, the same way any other buyer would. But you're not any other buyer, you're our daughter, our sister. Yes, I am. And when you needed $25,000 for your music program, did you think about the fact that half of it belonged to your sister? He doesn't answer that. Linda stands up. I think this is enough for tonight. Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell, here's a copy of the offer. Take your time reviewing it. If you have questions about any of the terms, please call me. As we're leaving, Mom catches my arm. Cassie, honey, if we did something wrong with the inheritance, we can talk about it. We can figure out a way to make it right. I look at her hand on my arm, then at her face. She looks genuinely confused, like she can't understand how we got to this point. Mom, how would you make it right? Trevor's already in Nashville. The money's already spent. We could help you with a down payment on your own place, when we have the money. When would that be? She doesn't answer. Mom, I don't need you to make it right anymore. I'm making it right myself. They take 4 days to respond. I spend those 4 days in a strange state of suspended animation. I go to work, I analyze portfolios, I meet with clients, but part of my attention is constantly focused on my phone, waiting for Linda's call. On Monday morning, she finally calls. They want to accept the offer. I'm quiet for a long moment. I've been preparing for this possibility for weeks, but now that it's actually happening, it feels surreal. Did they say why? Your father said they've been discussing their long-term financial situation, and the offer makes sense for their retirement planning. Your mother said she wants to make sure the house stays in the family. And Trevor. They didn't mention Trevor specifically, but I got the impression this wasn't a unanimous family decision. We schedule the closing for 6 weeks out, which gives me time to finalize my financing and gives them time to adjust to the idea. That evening, Dad calls me. Cassie, we're going to accept your offer. I heard from Linda, thank you. But I want you to understand something. This isn't easy for your mother. This house, we've been here for over 20 years. We raised you kids here. I understand that, Dad. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, it feels like you're forcing us out of our home to prove a point. I'm quiet for a moment, trying to figure out how to explain something I'm not sure I fully understand myself. Dad, I'm not forcing you to do anything. I made an offer. You can accept it or decline it. But you knew we'd have a hard time declining it. You knew our financial situation. I know you refinanced twice. I know your mortgage payment. I know Trevor doesn't contribute to household expenses. I know Mom's been talking about wanting to downsize but being afraid you couldn't afford it. Another pause. How do you know all that? Because I pay attention. Because when you needed help understanding your refinancing documents, I helped you. Because I listen when you talk about money problems. So you used that information against us. I used that information to structure an offer that would solve your problems while meeting my investment goals. Cassie, we're your parents. Yes, you are. And you raised me to be financially responsible and independent. This is what financial responsibility looks like. He's quiet for a long time. What about Trevor? What about him? Where is he supposed to live when he gets back from Nashville? Dad, Trevor is 32 years old. He's an adult. He can figure out his own living situation. But he's been counting on coming back here. Maybe it's time for him to stop counting on other people to solve his problems. After we hang up, I sit in my apartment looking around at the space I've called home for 3 years. In 6 weeks, I'll own a house. The house I grew up in. The house my parents are selling to me because they need the money more than they need the stability. I feel something that might be satisfaction, but it's mixed with something that definitely feels like sadness. 2 weeks later, Trevor calls me. He's in Nashville and he sounds different. Older maybe, or just tired. Cassie, Mom told me you're buying the house. That's right. I don't understand why you're doing this. I'm doing it because it's a good investment. But it's more than that, isn't it? I'm surprised by the directness of his question. Trevor isn't usually direct about emotional things. Yes, it's more than that. It's about the inheritance money. It's about the inheritance money, and it's about the fact that nobody in our family has ever considered what I might need or want. They just assume I'll be fine because I'm competent. Cassie, I didn't know they were using your half of the money. I thought they were just using mine. I stop walking. I'm on my way home from work, and this conversation is not what I was expecting. You didn't know. They told me Grandma Ruth left money for my education. They didn't tell me it was half yours and half mine. I sit down on a bench outside my building. Trevor, the inheritance was $25,000 for you and $25,000 for me. They used both portions to pay for your program. He's quiet for a long time. Shit, Cassie, I'm sorry, I didn't know. You didn't ask. No, I didn't ask, I should have asked. This is the closest thing to an apology I've ever gotten from Trevor about anything. How's the program? I ask. It's good, really good. I'm learning a lot, and I'm meeting people who actually work in the industry. But Cassie, even if this works out, even if I get a job in music production, I'm not going to make enough money to pay you back $25,000 anytime soon. As I know. So what happens now? I think about this. Now you figure out how to build a life that doesn't depend on other people's money, the same way I did. But you're better at that than I am. I'm better at it because I've had to be better at it. You can learn. And in the meantime, Mom and Dad have to move out of their house because I took your money without knowing it. Trevor, Mom and Dad chose to move out of their house because my offer solved some financial problems they were facing. If their finances were solid, they could have declined the offer. But their finances aren't solid because they've been supporting me. That's right. Another long silence. You're really going to own our house. I'm really going to own your parents' house. It stopped being our house when I moved out and started paying my own rent. Fair enough, he pauses. Cassie, when I get back from Nashville, can we talk? In person, I think. I think there are some things I need to understand better. We can talk. Okay, and Cassie. Yes. I'm sorry about the money, about not asking questions, about all of it. After we hang up, I realize this is the first conversation Trevor and I have ever had where he acknowledged that actions have consequences, and that some of those consequences might affect other people. Maybe Nashville is teaching him more than just music production. The closing happens on a Tuesday morning in a conference room that smells like coffee and copy toner. My parents look smaller somehow, sitting across from me at the polished table while lawyers shuffle papers and explain signatures. Mom cries when she signs the deed transfer. Dad puts his arm around her but doesn't look at me. When it's over, Linda hands me the keys to 847 Maple Street. They're the same keys I used to carry in high school when I had a curfew and rules about where I could go and who I could see. Now I hold them as the owner of the property. Congratulations, Linda says. You're now the owner of your childhood home. My parents are packing their car in the parking lot. They're moving to a two-bedroom condo about 15 minutes away, a place they bought with the down payment I gave them, where the monthly HOA fees are less than half of what their mortgage payment used to be. I walk over to them. How are you doing? I ask Mom. She looks at me with red eyes. I'm sad, Cassie. I know you think we did something wrong, and maybe we did, but I'm still sad about leaving our home. I understand that. Do you? Because sometimes I feel like I don't know you at all anymore. Dad loads the last box into their car. We'll be fine, Cassie. The condo is nice, and not having a mortgage payment will help our retirement savings. So I'm glad. But I want you to know, this doesn't feel like a family transaction to me. This feels like a business deal between strangers. I nod, maybe that's what it needed to be. He gets in the car without saying goodbye. Mom hugs me before she gets in the passenger seat. I love you, honey, even if I don't understand what you're doing. I love you too, Mom. After they drive away, I stand in the driveway of the house I now own, holding the keys I used to borrow, looking at the windows of rooms where I learned to balance checkbooks and create budgets and plan for a future I had to build myself. It's strange, owning the place where I grew up feeling like I didn't quite belong. But it's also mine now, in a way it never was before. I don't move into the house right away. Instead, I spend 2 months preparing it for rental. I have the carpets cleaned, touch up the paint, and make small improvements that will attract good tenants. It keeps my hands busy while my mind processes what I've done. Rebecca comes over one Saturday to help me clean out the basement, Trevor's former domain. Jesus, Cassie, how much music equipment does one person need? We're boxing up keyboards, guitars, recording devices, and cables. Most of it looks expensive and barely used. Apparently this much. I hold up a microphone that still has the price tag on it, $250. He never took any of this to Nashville. He said the program provides all the equipment he needs for classes. This was just for his personal projects. Rebecca sits back on her heels. You know what's weird? Being in this house now that it's yours. Weird how? I don't know, it feels the same but different. Like, it's the same kitchen where your mom used to make us snacks after school, but now you're the one who owns the refrigerator. I understand what she means. The house holds all the same memories, but my relationship to those memories has changed. I'm no longer the child who lived here. I'm the adult who chose to buy it. Do you think I did the right thing? I ask her. She considers this while taping up a box. I think you did what you needed to do, whether that's the same as the right thing? I don't know, but Cassie, your parents did steal from you. Maybe not legally, but they took money that belonged to you and gave it to someone else without asking. That's not okay. I know it's not okay, but sometimes I wonder if I went too far. How so? I could have just written off the $25,000. I make good money, I have savings, I could have absorbed the loss and moved on. But you shouldn't have had to. No, I shouldn't have, but I could have. Instead, I bought their house, which forced them to move and disrupted their retirement plans. Rebecca stops packing. Cassie, you didn't force them to do anything. You made an offer. They accepted it because it solved problems they already had. Problems they had because they've been supporting Trevor financially for years. Right, problems they created by repeatedly choosing to enable your brother instead of requiring him to support himself. You didn't create those problems. I know she's right, but it doesn't always feel that simple. The house rents quickly to a young couple with good credit and stable jobs. Sarah and Mike Chen are both teachers, and they love the neighborhood schools and the big backyard. They remind me a little of myself at their age, responsible, hardworking. planning for the future. Having rental income feels strange at first. Every month, $2,100 gets deposited into my account, money I earn not by working more hours or taking on additional responsibilities, but by owning something. It's my first real taste of what financial advisors call passive income, and it makes me understand why wealthy people talk about making their money work for them. 3 months after the closing, Trevor comes back from Nashville. He calls me from the airport. Hey, Cassie, I'm back. Can we have that conversation now? We meet at a coffee shop near my apartment. He looks different, more focused, maybe, or just less scattered. He's wearing clothes that actually fit him properly, and he's carrying a leather portfolio instead of a backpack held together with duct tape. How was Nashville? I ask. Eye-opening. He opens the portfolio and pulls out what looks like a business plan. I learned a lot about the music industry. Most of what I learned is that I've been approaching it all wrong for the past 10 years. How so? I was treating it like a hobby that should somehow make money instead of like a business that happens to involve music. The program taught me about marketing, revenue streams, client relationships, project management, all the stuff you've been trying to tell me about for years. He slides the business plan across the table. I wrote this during my last week in Nashville. It's a plan for starting a small music production company focused on local bands and independent artists. I flipped through it. It's actually pretty comprehensive market analysis, financial projections, startup costs, marketing strategies. This is good work, Trevor. Thanks. I also got a part-time job at a recording studio in town. It doesn't pay much, but it's experience, and the owner says if I prove myself over the next 6 months, he might offer me a full-time position. That's great. Yeah, and Cassie, I want to pay you back. I look up from the business plan. Trevor. No, let me finish. I know I can't pay you back $25,000 right now, but I can set up a payment plan. $50 a month to start, more as my income increases. It'll take a long time, but I want to do it. I'm quiet for a moment, trying to process this version of Trevor, the one who has a business plan and a job and wants to take responsibility for his debts. You don't have to do that. Yes, I do. I took money that belonged to you. Even if I didn't know it at the time, even if mom and dad made the decision, I benefited from theft. That's not okay. This is not the conversation I was expecting to have. Trevor, that program really changed you. The program helped. But honestly, what really changed me was realizing that I'm 32 years old and my little sister had to buy our parents' house because I've been financially irresponsible my entire adult life. I didn't buy the house because of you. Come on, Cassie, we both know that's not entirely true. He's right, but I don't want to admit it. Okay, maybe it was partially because of you. But it was also because I wanted to own property, and because I was angry about the inheritance, and because I wanted to make sure my parents could never take my money again. All of which happened because of choices I made, or didn't make. We sit quietly for a few minutes. The coffee shop is busy with the afternoon crowd, people grabbing drinks before heading home from work, students studying at laptops, friends catching up over lattes. Trevor, can I ask you something? And sure. Why did you never ask where the inheritance money came from? He's quiet for a long time. Because I didn't want to know if the answer was complicated. I wanted to believe that mom and dad had found some magical solution to my problems, and if I asked too many questions, the solution might disappear. So you chose not to think about it? I chose not to think about a lot of things. Like the fact that I've been living rent-free for 10 years while you've been paying your own way since college. Like the fact that every time I needed money for something, they found it somehow. But when you needed help, they told you how proud they were of your independence. You noticed that. Of course, I noticed it. I just told myself it was because you were better at taking care of yourself. I was better at taking care of myself because I had to be. So I know that now. We finish our coffee and walk outside. It's getting dark earlier now, fall is coming, and with it the end of my first year as a property owner. Cassie, can I ask you something now? And sure. Do you think you'll ever forgive me? Really forgive me, not just say you do. I think about this as we walk to our cars. Trevor, I think forgiveness isn't something that happens all at once. I think it's something you earn back gradually by making different choices and being a different person. And do you think I'm being a different person? I think you're trying to be, that's a start. He gets in his car, a used Honda Accord that he bought with money he earned from a part-time job in Nashville, and drives away. As I watch his taillights disappear, I realize this is the first conversation we've ever had where he took responsibility for his actions and their impact on other people. Maybe it's never too late for people to grow up. 6 months after buying the house, I finally have dinner with my parents. They invite me to their new condo, and Mom cooks my favorite meal, pot roast with carrots and potatoes, the same thing she made for my birthday every year when I was growing up. The condo is smaller than the house, but it's bright and comfortable. They've arranged their furniture in new ways, hung their pictures on different walls, created a space that feels like home, but not like the home where I grew up. How do you like it? Mom asks as she shows me around. It's really nice, the kitchen is so modern. And no maintenance, Dad adds. No lawn to mow, no gutters to clean, no furnace to worry about. The HOA takes care of all that. We sit down for dinner, and for the first few minutes it almost feels normal. We talk about work, the weather, Mom's book club. But eventually, the conversation turns to the elephant in the room. How are your tenants? Dad asks. They're great. Sarah and Mike are wonderful. They take good care of the property, pay rent on time, even send me pictures when they plant new flowers in the garden. That's nice, Mom says, but her voice is a little tight. Mom, are you okay? She sets down her fork. It's just strange, hearing about strangers living in the house where I raised my children. I nod, I can understand that. Can you? Because sometimes I wonder if you really considered what this would be like for us. Seeing other people's cars in our driveway, other people's children playing in the backyard where you and Trevor used to play. I take a breath. Mom, I considered it. But I also considered what it was like to find out that money my grandmother left me had been given away without my knowledge or consent. Dad intervenes. Cassie, we've been thinking about that situation, and we realize we handled it poorly. How so? We should have called you before we used your portion of the inheritance. We should have asked if you were willing to help Trevor with his program. Yes, you should have. But at the time, it seemed obvious that you'd want to help your brother succeed. Dad, it wasn't obvious to me because nobody asked me. Mom looks up from her plate. Would you have said yes if we'd asked? I've been thinking about this question for months. I honestly don't know. Maybe I would have agreed to loan him some money with clear repayment terms. Maybe I would have offered to help him research less expensive programs. Maybe I would have said no entirely. But I would have had the chance to make that choice. And because we didn't give you that chance, you bought our house. I bought your house because I wanted to own property, and because your house was a good investment, and because I was angry about the inheritance situation. But mostly because you were angry, Mom says quietly. I consider this. Yes, mostly because I was angry. But Mom, anger isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes anger tells you that something important has been violated. My anger told me that I needed to protect myself better. By buying our house, by taking control of my financial security in a way that nobody else could interfere with. Dad reaches across the table and covers my hand with his. Cassie, we love you. We've always loved you. We didn't mean to hurt you. I know you love me, Dad, but love isn't the same as respect. And you didn't respect me enough to include me in decisions about my own inheritance. You're right, he says simply. We didn't, and I'm sorry for that. This is the first time either of my parents has actually apologized for the inheritance situation. Thank you for saying that. We finished dinner and moved to their living room for coffee and dessert. It's comfortable furniture arranged in a comfortable room, and my parents seem more relaxed here than they were during their last years in the house. Can I ask you something, Cassie? Mom says as she pours coffee. Of course. Do you ever think about moving into the house yourself? I've been thinking about this more lately. Sometimes, maybe eventually. It just seems strange that you own this big house, but you're still living in a studio apartment. The rental income is helping me build wealth faster than I could by living in it myself. But you're right, it is strange. Dad settles into his recliner. You know, your mother and I have been talking, and we realized that buying the house was actually a smart financial move for you. Thanks, Dad. I mean, you're building equity, earning rental income, and you got us to carry part of the financing at a good interest rate. It's exactly the kind of strategic thinking that's always made you successful. It was strategic thinking, motivated by emotional hurt. Maybe, but the outcome is still financially sound. Mom sits down next to me on the couch. Cassie, I want you to know that even though I'm sad about leaving the house, I'm proud of what you've accomplished. You saw an opportunity, you had the resources to pursue it, and you structured it in a way that benefited everyone involved. Even though it forced you to move. We weren't forced to move. We chose to sell because your offer solved problems we were facing, problems we probably should have addressed sooner. What kind of problems? Dad and Mom exchange glances. We'd been talking about downsizing for a couple of years, Dad says. The house was getting expensive to maintain, and we weren't sure we'd have enough retirement savings to keep up with major repairs. But we kept putting off the decision because it felt overwhelming. So, when you made the offer, Mom continues, it gave us a reason to do something we knew we should do anyway. Plus, Dad adds, the monthly payments from the owner financing are actually helping our retirement income. We're in a better financial position now than we were before we sold. This is information I didn't have before. All this time, I've been carrying some guilt about forcing them out of their home, and it turns out they'd been wanting to leave anyway. Why didn't you tell me that before? Because we were hurt and angry that you were buying our house without talking to us about it first, Mom says. We weren't thinking clearly about the financial benefits. Then now we can see that you were right to make the offer, even if your reasons for making it were complicated. We sit quietly for a few minutes. Outside, I can hear children playing in the condo complex courtyard. It sounds peaceful. Mom, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you understand now why I was so upset about the inheritance? She nods slowly. I think so. It wasn't just about the money, was it? It was about feeling like your needs and opinions didn't matter to us. That's right. And buying the house was your way of making sure your needs and opinions couldn't be ignored anymore. Partly, yes. Dad sets down his coffee cup. Cassie, we made mistakes with how we've treated you and Trevor differently over the years. We thought we were helping both of you in the ways you needed help, but we realize now that we were enabling Trevor and taking you for granted. We assumed you'd always be fine because you're so capable, Mom adds, but that wasn't fair to you. No, it wasn't. Are we going to be okay? Mom asks. As a family, I mean, can we get past this? I think about Trevor's business plan, his part-time job, his offer to pay me back. I think about my parents in their comfortable condo, relieved of mortgage payments and maintenance responsibilities. I think about myself, owning property for the first time, building wealth in ways I couldn't have imagined a year ago. I think we're already getting past it, I tell her. We're all making different choices now, better choices. Because you bought our house. Because I bought your house, and because Trevor went to Nashville, and because you moved to a place that fits your life better now. Sometimes big changes create opportunities for everyone to grow. When I leave their condo that evening, Mom hugs me longer than usual. I love you, sweetheart, and I'm sorry we hurt you. I love you too, Mom, and I'm glad you're happy here. As I drive home through the familiar streets of my childhood neighborhood, I pass 847 Maple Street. The lights are on in the kitchen, and I can see Sarah and Mike through the window, cooking dinner together. Their lives happening in the space where my life used to happen. It's strange, but it doesn't hurt anymore. It just feels like the natural progression of things, one chapter ending so another can begin. When I get back to my studio apartment, I sit down with my laptop and start researching larger places to rent. Not because I'm unhappy where I am, but because I'm starting to think about what I want my life to look like now that I have more financial security. Maybe it's time to stop living like I'm still saving for something that might never happen. Maybe it's time to start living like someone who has built something worth celebrating. I pull up the rental income spreadsheet and look at the numbers. In the past 6 months, the house has generated $12,600 in rental income. After expenses, that's nearly $10,000 in profit. Money I earn not by working more hours, but by making a strategic investment. At the bottom of the spreadsheet, I type a note to myself. Consider moving into the house at the end of Sarah and Mike's lease. It's time to stop living like you don't deserve the good things you've built. Then I close the laptop and pour myself a glass of wine, good wine, not the cheap stuff I used to buy. I've learned that there's a difference between being frugal and being afraid to spend money on things that bring you joy. The inheritance situation taught me that I can't depend on other people to prioritize my financial security. Buying the house taught me that I don't need to depend on other people to prioritize my financial security. I have everything I need to build the life I want. I always did. I just had to learn to believe I deserved to use it. What would you have done in this situation? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you experienced family dynamics like this? Tell us your city and your story. Do you think Cassandra went too far, or was she justified in her actions? Rate this story 0-10 and tell us why. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories of family drama, financial independence, and standing up for yourself when no one else will.